Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and in today's episode, I'm going to start with basically a beginning or a start with conventions, okay? And one of the largest conventions that we have on the West Coast of North America here is the San Diego Comic Convention. Now, again, a lot of you people, have gone to a convention. Even people in Vancouver here have been to like Anime Evolution, or people in Seattle would go to like SacroCon, and many people have gone to conventions like Anime Expo or something. But I want to start with something. May as well start with the biggest, and in my opinion, at the time, the best overall convention, which is the San Diego Comic Convention. Now, this convention, literally takes over the entire, San Diego downtown core for that entire weekend, because it literally, the attendance of the convention is in the hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, this will even, overshadow, the big events like, a San Diego Chargers football game. Okay, considering the fact that the logistics of all the other things that go on. For example, you think the attendance of people who got paid tickets and that kind of stuff, maybe in the hundreds of thousands. But you got to think of all the exhibitors and all the people that are also traveling to San Diego, to take all the hotel rooms and things like that. You got to consider them as well as the exhibitors, right? All these major companies are sending their representatives and that kind of stuff. They're bringing merchandise and all this stuff. It's also a big logistics thing that goes on there. So I'm going to go over that one for you. And so the first thing I want to just basically show you is basically some things that that have to do with San Diego. But basically, I'll start from the beginning and describe a little bit about San Diego, the comic convention. Now, the San Diego Comic Convention, as it's coined, originally was basically a convention focused mostly on comics, okay, and then basically in the early '80s, a lot of the emphasis was on comics, Marvel, DC, and then a little bit of the independent that kind of stuff at that time. But here, slowly, basically they started shifting the focus not only on just comics, but they're also focusing on popular media, so TV programming, movies, anything that has sci-fi, anything that kind of has some sort of media presence. Okay, they started showing up at the San Diego Comic Con and basically trying to showcase and show off things that they were going to be putting out that year, right? Because again, they're starting to get this draw of these large amount of people, not only just interested in comics, but interested in general entertainment in general. Okay, and so basically, what I learned of the San Diego Comic Convention, and the fact that from the talkings from basically the CFO group and that kind of stuff and whatnot. And then, we decided, okay, we're going to get a bunch of the guys from, the Vancouver Japanese Animation Society, and we also, teamed up with the Abbotsford Animation Society, and we basically kind of got a group of us together. We basically kind of, got a bunch of cars together, and we basically decided to drive on down there, hit a few places while we're, on the way there, because it said from Vancouver, it's almost 26 hours of driving to get from Vancouver all the way down to San Diego. So obviously we're going to have to make some stops in San Francisco, San Jose, Los Angeles, things like that, on the way in order to to break the trip up. Okay, but we'll get into the road trip again later. But, we got some pictures. We got obviously lots of good stories. Maybe I'll get some of the guys that was on there to see if they can bring up some of their stories and that kind of stuff of the conventions on the road, kind of thing. And then basically every couple of years after that, we decided to basically make it sort of an annual pilgrimage, if you will, to basically assemble a bunch of people together. We'll take them all down to the to the convention, and we'll kind of to some people it was their first experience at anime, conventions in general, not just anime conventions, but a convention in general, as well as just a sort of a media entertainment experience, as it were. Okay. The first convention I went to is the 1989 convention. Okay, so this is the souvenir book for the 1989 convention. Okay, and then basically, out of these different conventions, that's when I found out that, hey, this is such a large sort of event. I continue going to them. So this is the convention book for 1990, the next year after that. Okay, and then I went again the next year after that to the 1991 convention. Okay, and and the next one after that one is the 1992 one. Okay, and you can even see it at the bottom, right? They even say, this is actually the 23rd annual one. So so even at 1992, they've already had 23 of these conventions every year. So you can see that they've been growing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as they go on, right? Okay, now people are always saying, well, this convention, you talk about it, it's so big, it's so like, this and this and that, and you say it's so good or whatever. Like, how is it bigger? How is it better? And how is it, all this other stuff? Okay, let's go into that a little bit. Okay, so typically, a lot of people, they'll have their conventions at a convention center. San Diego Comic Con is held at the San Diego Convention Center. Initially, the convention center was adequate for doing the comic conventions, right? However, they kept expanding and getting bigger and bigger, and so big that that they actually had to make the convention center even bigger in order to accommodate all the things that the comic convention has. Like, they had to add a lot of extra services. You'd think with literally 100,000 people coming in, they're going to need more facilities, more things that people will need. ATM machines, for example. Food services and that kind of stuff. They'll need transportation, shuttles, all this other stuff. They had to build this this infrastructure in order to handle all these anime, comic fans, movie fans, and that kind of stuff. So that was one thing that makes it bigger. Now we were talking about scale. Okay, so I'm going to show you some pictures here in the next little bit here, and then I'm going to sort of try to put it into perspective for you, because again, a lot of you people have gone to conventions and that kind of stuff, and you say, okay, well, for example, Anime Evolution, we had it held at for example, let's say SFU University, and the dealer's room we put into a gymnasium. Okay, all right, gymnasiums have lots of room, great. A lot of people can picture what a gymnasium is. We've played things like basketball in a gymnasium, so you can kind of get an idea. Okay, yeah, a basketball court is like this by this, and you can fit so many 8-foot tables along this way, and you put a couple 8-foot tables this way, and you can put a center row down the middle type of thing, and you kind of weave them in and out, and you get kind of an idea of how many tables or how many things that you can sort of fit in a gymnasium. Okay, so how does that compare to the San Diego Convention Center, for example? Okay, many of you people probably went to a convention that's being held in a ballroom in a hotel, for example, and so that kind of sometimes gives you an indication. Well, how many tables could you go, down the length of the ballroom and then back the length of the ballroom and then back, and then that kind of thing, and that sort of gives you an idea of how big some of that is. So again, I'm going to try to bring some things to scale. I'm going to try to bring some some markers that will give you an indication just how big this place is.
All right, I'm here standing in front of a standard 8-foot table. These are standing tables that you get that fold up with folding legs that you use in a lot of conventions. And my backdrop is going to be a standard home improvement store here, and the 8-foot beams stand off on each of the different beams. I'm going to walk away from the table here, and I'm going to give you an indication of just how many of these tables that will fit as I walk down this aisle. So right now at this point, I'm at 5. So you can fit 5 more of these tables along this walking beam here, side on side. And you keep walking down the aisle here, and I'm going to get to this point here, and I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to give you 10. So 10 of these tables will be down here. So remember, the San Diego Comic Con has basically rows and rows of these tables set side on side, and this will give you an idea. Now I'm at 15 tables away. All right, and continue walking. So at the Comic Con, a typical aisle will have 20 of these tables. So I'm going to turn around here and give you an indication that 20 is this far away.
So that's size, okay? I've also talked about how many people actually go to this thing, okay? So obviously a lot of people show up for this thing, which is important because all the vendors, okay? Now again, in the heyday of anime, a lot of people were interested in the anime focus. Even so much so that some years that I went, even some of the major vendors like Marvel, DC, and those kind of things, they even have an anime component because they're all trying to jump onto this anime bandwagon, which of course led to the oversaturation of the anime market, of course, and that's what caused it to crash. So, but at that time, as an anime fan, you really had to appreciate that everyone was tailoring towards you. You could get so much stuff, and so many different people were getting into anime. It was a great experience. Okay, now what am I talking about in terms of this experience? Well, when you go to the convention, especially a dealer's room, okay, you see people selling stuff and whatnot. But a true convention is also filled with media people and also companies coming in to promote something. Okay, if there's a new movie coming out, sure, maybe they're going to be handing out flyers. Maybe they'll hand out some swag, some merchandise, pins, maybe a pen or maybe some stationery or something like that. Okay, and some of the cool stuff that you can get. Now again, I'm not going to get into a lot of that kind of stuff right now because I think I should save that for the episodes where I actually talk about the cool stuff that I picked up while I'm at the con. Okay, so I don't want to just sort of list off all these things that 1 year I got this and this year I got this and this year I got no. Let's save that for the episodes where I actually pull out stuff and then show pictures of it and all that kind of stuff, and then we'll talk about that in those episodes. So again, you want to stay tuned for those. Hit like, hit subscribe, and then you'll get to see them. All right. So. Now that gives you sort of an inspiration, an idea of what we can kind of get from these things. So we know that this place is big. Lots of people kind of go into this thing. Lots of different people, different genres, and that kind of stuff all come to this thing. So a lot of media support and that kind of stuff. And now the fans, as a fan, that you go to this, well, obviously now you're going to get a good selection of merchandise, right? Because you got all these people trying to sell stuff and whatnot. You got the companies bringing their stuff and they're selling their stuff. So you can go right to their booth and buy the animes and that kind of stuff right straight from the source, right? Get from them, or look around and maybe you might be get some deals and that kind of stuff. There's promo items and that kind of stuff. So if you're in the right place or you line up in the right place, you get that kind of stuff. But the other thing that was always really interesting, and that doesn't have to do with the anime part, but it deals with the fan, the rest of the media, as it were. Because there's so many facets and so many people that show up, a lot of shall we say stars and guests will show up. So if you're looking for people that showed up in a particular movie or some of your favorite actors and that kind of stuff from TV shows or movies or things like that, they'll show up at these places, and then you're able to get sometimes you'll be able to get autographs from them. Sometimes the lines are long, sometimes they're short. They'll do special talks sometimes. You could ask them questions. So say every time you wanted to know something about behind the scenes of this or that, or how they feel about this or that, you can ask them a question and see, and maybe they'll answer you, and things like that. So that's another really big plus that always happens at these type of conventions. There's always lots of giveaways. Again, these companies are promoting their material, so they a lot of them will have raffles or hourly giveaways. They'll draw numbers that I've had. You stand in line for for a limited release of some swag or something, or just things like that. Is another reason why this particular con was really good for that, because this was the source for it all. You can go to like smaller conventions and that kind of stuff, and only maybe one or two of these let's say anime vendors, for example, would show up. But where you come to something like this, everybody's showing up. Everybody and their and the entire Rolodex of names are showing up at this con, because they know that there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people. Specifically, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people specifically for this fan comic book, anime, sci-fi, whatever. They're all going to be here, and so if you want to get your message out, you want to get maximum penetration of the genre, maximum advertising buck, if you will. You want to show up at this con, okay? And that's why it was so good for for us fans to come to these things and get the experience of the convention. Again, I'm going to go into some convention stories, but today I just want to kind of go over some of the things and kind of introduce this con to you. Okay, so I've covered the sort of the size, the scope, what's who and what's going to be there, what you kind of do and sort of experience the con. So again, if you have the ability to go to San Diego for one of these conventions and that kind of stuff, make a trip out of it, make a weekend out of it, make a week out of it, whatever, right? I definitely do recommend you at least try it at least once, because I said, you may think, oh yeah, I've been to the Anime Expo, or I've been to this convention, I thought it was really big and I thought it was cool, but you should really try this convention, and you'll be just sort of really amazed of the scope and the size, and maybe overwhelmed sometimes. And I'll tell you some of the stories and that kind of stuff, as I go on. But again, this is just an introduction to the San Diego Comic Convention. And as I said, if you have a chance, sometime, whatever, you should really try to go and see it. Again, it changes every year, and the focus changes, and the genres change, and whatnot. But the experience is something that you definitely need to to have a couple days to give it a good try and have a look at anyway. Okay, so until next time, see you again.